Spawn chunks and ticking areas. What on earth are they? Well, in this video, we're going to go through what they are and why they're important in your Minecraft world. Don't you go anywhere. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, depending on what time you're watching this next episode from me, Avomance. And today we are doing something on the Avomancia Peninsula, but it is not one of my Avomancia Let's Play survival episodes. No, it's not. This is as a result of a lot of people in the comments whilst I've been doing my farm tutorial series and also this Avomancia Let's Play series, is what do spawn chunks actually mean? What are they? What do they do? What's the point of them? Have they got lots of spawns in them? What is the point? Well, today, dear viewer, I'm going to just explain to you what the spawn chunks are and how you find them. Now, I know a lot of people watching this video are already going to know the answer to this question or these questions. So I've got a challenge for you MLG Minecraft players that know it all. In the comments below, by the end of this video, I want you to tell me what I've not mentioned about the spawn chunks. So I'm going to deliberately, I'll say deliberately, it's probably not deliberately at all, but I'm going to deliberately leave out some facts about the spawn chunks, and you in the comments below, you top level gamers that know everything about blocks, in the comments below, let me know what it is I've missed out. And then the people that don't know about spawn chunks, watch the video and then look at the comments, and in the comments there'll be even more pro tips about it. So that's the idea anyway. So what we're going to do first off is we're going to demonstrate how to find the spawn chunks, and the way we do that first is to find the spawn point. Now, the spawn point in Minecraft, especially in survival Minecraft, isn't an exact science. Now, if you come back from the end, you do and lob stuff through the end exit portal, the stuff that lobs through falls on the exact spawn block. But in actual fact, when you spawn in survival, you spawn around 20 blocks kind of around that spawn block. It's not an exact science, which is why when you're on a server, you sometimes don't spawn in exactly the same area. You spawn kind of 20 blocks around it potentially, unless they've fiddled with the spawn chunk commands, which you can do on some servers if you get into the nitty gritty of it. But you're gonna spawn within 20 blocks of the spawn block. And to find the spawn block, it's dead easy. There are lots and lots of different ways, but I find the easiest way is to have a compass, which is one of these fellas here, and it's dead easy to make. The recipe for the compass is up on the screen, so there's no arguments and no excuses for not being able to make a compass. It is not that hard, really. Look, how easy is that? It's absolute doddle. A little bit of redstone, bit of iron, away you go. So what we're doing now is we are going to look for the spawn block. Now, I'm already in my spawn chunks. Now, I know I'm not very far away from the spawn block at all. So I'm going to start to look at where you can see the arrow on my compass is pointing that way. And if I face that way, it moves. And if I face away, it moves. That's because the compass in Minecraft does not point north. It points towards your spawn block. So I'm going to come up to my road here and I'm going to walk along the road and I'm basically going to follow my compass. You can see the compass is pointing in this direction. It's slightly off, but there's a building in the way, but it's still pointing that direction, so we know we're going in the right way. So we're going to carry on, and we're going to carry on, and we're going to carry on, and we're going to carry on until the compass moves. So all it's starting to move, and now it's saying it is in this direction, this way. So if I come up on this wall, hang on, so it is sort of down here. There we go. So I'm going to walk this way. Oh, but it's moving. Oh, now if I turn that way, I'm surrounded by chickens. But if I go, oh no, it's turned. And if I go that way, no, it's turned. Go that way, no, it's turned. Right, which means that about here, this is probably my spawn block, or certainly one of these blocks around it is my spawn block. So if I then pull up my F3 screen, and I can see that I am about 256, as in minus 256, minus 64. So that is my spawn block. Minus 256, minus 64. Ignore the 71 in the middle, because that means how high I am above the bedrock. But 256 minus 64, or minus 256, sorry, minus 64 is my spawn block. Oh my goodness, can you see how the chickens are moving me about? What is it you want, you silly chickens? You know what? I'm feeling a bit cruel. There you go. That'll learn you. Do you see, if you start pushing me around, that is what you're going to get. Anyway, should we go on with the next bit of the video? So I've had to move away from those chickens because they're just too blooming loud. And then I moved over towards my tree farm and the water was too loud. Then I moved over towards the micro meat farms and the animals were too loud. So I'm over here, back to where I started, because actually nothing here is too loud. That's all good. Unless I get kind of crept up on by some creeperage who wants to eat my face, and that would be bad. But anyway, more about these spawn chunks. So we've already established that the spawn block is around about minus 256, minus 65. It's about that, give or take a little bit. Now what that means is my spawn chunks are going to be surrounding that area. And what's good about this is the spawn chunks in your survival world or your creative world, whatever it might be, they do not despawn no matter where you are in the overworld. Whereas other spawn chunk or other chunks, as you move through the world, they load as you move into them, and as you pass through them and go away in the other direction, they unload. And that is because the game doesn't want to have to think about all of this space all the time. It has to worry about its own memory, and you know how it can be laggy sometimes, Minecraft. You imagine if all the chunks stayed loaded, it'd be even more laggy. So what we do is you have a number of chunks around you as a player that are loaded as you walk through the world. They're the chunks within which mobs can spawn. They're the chunks within which entities can do their stuff, and they're the chunks within which the water can flow, lava can flow, all that kind of thing. But what does happen is that when you're in the overworld, the spawn chunks do not unload. They are always loaded as long as you are in the overworld. Now I'll expand a little bit about that in the overworld thing in a minute, because it's not entirely true, but if you're in the overworld, they're always loaded. There's a chunk area, 16 by 16 chunks around that chunk spot that are the loaded chunks. So all of those chunks are going to be loaded. So if I go 16 chunks kind of towards the lighthouse and beyond, that'll be loaded. If I go 16 chunks past that house, that'll be loaded. 16 chunks up past the match wall, that'll be loaded. And 16 chunks up past those noisy chickens, that will be loaded. But because entities, by entities I mean animals, mobs, villagers, all that kind of stuff, if they are not surrounded by 5 loaded chunks, they cease to work, they cease to function. So the sheep won't eat grass, or the chickens won't lay eggs, or the villagers won't breed if the conditions are right, and therefore iron golems won't spawn, etc, etc. They have to have 5 chunks around them. So that means if we've got 16 loaded chunks, you have to be working within 12 chunks, 12 chunks of your spawn block. Now, what that means for me is my usable area. So if I wanted to do something where I constantly have activity like an iron farm or a villager breeder or a sheep wool farm, which is something I'm going to be doing, all that kind of stuff, all that kind of really, really cool stuff that you want to be running over and over and over again, irrelevant of wherever you are in the world, so you continue producing iron or whatever it might be, or villagers. You need to be 192 blocks, that's 12 times 16, because a chunk is a 16 by 16 square. You need to be 192 blocks from that spawn block. So minus 256 and minus 65, I've got to be within 192 blocks of that for my farm to continuously work all the time. So that means that I've got to be somewhere between, minus 64 and minus 448 for my X coordinate, and I've got to be somewhere between minus 257 and 127-ish around my Z coordinate. And if I'm outside of that, the entities are going to stop working. So that is what the spawn chunk area, the usable spawn chunk area is. So just to illustrate this, what we have got here is my iron farm that I did, that is all the way out from the island, to be able to have plenty of space for the doors. Now, this isn't a tutorial about how an iron farm works. If you want to watch a tutorial on iron farms, go and see my iron farm tutorial. You're more than welcome to go and have a look at that. But what's important is for an iron farm to continue to work even while I'm not even anywhere near it, it needs to be within the spawn chunks. So what we've got here, F3, you can see I've got minus 269 and 32 as my X and Z. Oh, villagers are so loud! Minus 269 and 32 as my X and Z coordinates. That is comfortably within the area that I need to be, which is 192 blocks away from that spawn block, if you remember. So this one is constantly rolling, constantly rolling, no matter where I am within my world. Certainly within my overworld, and you can see that the villagers have been breeding up like mad, and also the villager breeder has been delivering them, because that villager breeder is also in the spawn chunks on the other side, so that continues to work too. So that's how that works. Let's get back to the peninsula. So I've mentioned a few times about being in the overworld. The spawn chunks won't despawn if I'm in the overworld. But what about other dimensions? Well, if you go through to the nether or the end, or if there are, I suspect, any other dimensions that are in development, you'll find that they will give you 15 seconds before things in the overworld just stop. So you've got a 15-second timer that if you go through to the nether, your stuff will continue to work and then they'll despawn, and that'll be that. But if you can get that clock reset whilst you're in the nether, then things will continue to work, and you can achieve that by using some kind of entity activity. A really good thing you can use is an arrow dispenser, for example. So you can fire arrows out of a dispenser and that will reset your clock for 15 seconds. So if you end up having an arrow dispenser fire every, say, 10 seconds, that will mean that you've got continued activity inside your spawn chunks, and specifically inside the overworld biome, the overworld dimension, and that means you don't have to lose your spawn chunks, and they just continue to be loaded, and your iron golems will continue to spawn, your villagers will continue to breed, your animals will continue to grow from babies into bigger animals if that's what you're doing, water will flow, all of that kind of stuff. It will carry on without you having to worry about it, and you can get on and do whatever mining it is, or blaze farming, or whatever it might be in your nether, or you can go and kill the ender dragon in the safe knowledge that your iron farm and your villager breeder or your sheep wall farm is still working. That's absolutely superb. So spawn chunks are specific to the Java edition of Minecraft. So in console and in Bedrock, etc., there aren't things called spawn chunks. There are things called ticking areas, and actually in those you can have more than one ticking area in a world, and I think you can have quite a few if I remember rightly. So you can set your ticking areas so that, hello Mr. Sheep, you can set your ticking areas so that actually there's no despawning of maybe your redstone mechanisms that you've got in your ticking areas if you want to have your farm continuously moving. So you've got maybe some advantages in MCPE and also in console by being able to set up your ticking areas. Why are you looking at my bum for, Mr. Sheep? Go on, off with you. Go on, go. Don't you nod at me. So the ticking areas are slightly different, but they have the same principle, if you like, in that they do not despawn no matter where you are in the world. Now you have to be very careful with your spawn chunks because you can reset them. You can use the /set world spawn command and you can reset where your spawn chunk is going to be, but you have to be very, very cautious, because if you've got a really, really high amount of redstone going on in your spawn chunk, that can cause you additional lag, because what that's going to happen is every single tick of the game, the world is going to have to think about all of that redstone. Now, some of that redstone may be really important and you want it in your spawn chunks because it's got to continually go, but maybe some of the other redstone you don't have to worry about, and you can have that outside of your spawn chunks, and it'll only affect you while you are in that area. So do be aware, lots and lots of redstone can have a bit of an effect, but a little bit is absolutely fine. And one last thing I just wanted to mention about the spawn chunks is mine carts. If your mine cart system, if you've got like a collection system or something like that, runs within your spawn chunk area, it is going to carry on going because the chunks aren't despawning. However, if you've got a collection system in your mine or whatever, and that runs outside of the spawn chunks, if those chunks are not loaded, you'll find that the mine carts basically stop. They go into oblivion, and as a result it stops working, which is a bit of a shame, because if you spend a lot of time doing that kind of thing, you really, really want them to be working 100% of the time. So that is all I'm going to tell you about the spawn chunks, but like I said at the beginning, you MLG blockers out there, you know more. In the comments below, tell me some things, and also tell the people that don't know some things about spawn chunks that I have not already mentioned. There are definitely a few, so get cracking down in the comments. It'll be great to see what you come up with, and maybe actually you'll teach me some stuff too, which would be brilliant. Now, if you have enjoyed this video, please do hit that like button really hard. Look, my arm is going really hard to hit the like button, except I'm not liking my video. And if you haven't done it already, please do hit that subscribe button. It'll be great to see you in my sub club, and I look forward to seeing you in another video. You take it easy now. Bye.